Hello, welcome to Finding Missing Data, Create List in Excel. I'm Mark Strang of Bowling Green State University. To start with for today's presentation, I would like to do a land acknowledgement. The region of Bowling Green State University inhabits is the lower Great Black Swamp and the lower Great Lakes region. This land was the ancestral territory of the Wyandot, the Huron, the Chicopoo, the Erie, the Miami, and the Peoria. We recognize these historical contemporary ties in our efforts to further the conversation around decolonizing history and honoring Indigenous individuals and communities who have been here living and working in the land from time immemorial. Excellent resource to find out individuals who are in your area is native land. So just a little terminology review. The terms create list, and review files are used interchangeably for the function create list in Sierra and Millennium. The agenda for today will be some concerns about BGSU's unique information, our BGSU Sierra information. We did this presentation, the bibliographic and item record suppression for our InReach central catalog, and the bibliographic B code 3 used to remove records from our Summit Discovery layer. Additionally, we'll be talking about our review file tools, editing existing queries, save searches, save sorts, save lists, saved exports, saving a search, applying a saved export, the exclamation mark tag query, and the next and previous record shortcuts. We'll also be discussing how you export records, in a case study of examining DVDs in our MMAV, main AV, and MPAV, Brown Popular Cultural Library AV collections. An example of a review file, the fields I like to use to export, and then we'll have an Excel import, how to use Excel 2016 and Excel 365 Pro Plus to pull your data into it, and then the text import wizard and how those work. Also then cover inside of Excel itself, once you have the data out of Sierra and into Excel, how to freeze the top row, how to filter data, and how to count data. And then we will create a review file in Sierra from Excel, if you haven't seen that process before. Some case studies we'll go over is the CRC. We have a shelf reading list example I want to show you, and also some examples about our 029 past practices when it comes to our call numbers. I am going to include some new stuff in that regular expressions, tips, and tricks that I got from Richard Jackson's presentation at IUG 2021. This will be the finding the absence of data, find non-repeatable fields in the title, find title in all uppercase, and find item barcodes not starting with A113. Ours all start with A113. So that's a neat trick. And then I'm going to cover some training resources for Create List that I have found over the years. Start with our BGSU unique info. At the time of this recording, we're using release Sierra 5.3.07, and we are hosted by Amazon, through Innovative by Amazon Web Services. And the tools I'll use to demonstrate in this project will be your base Sierra set, products that are covered with your base Sierra purchase. Unique info to BGSU, as we are a founding member of the HioLink Consortium, which most people in this, and we are also a lending partner with our public library, Search Ohio, both of which, considering this is an Ohio conference, I don't think I'm going to go more into. As a member of our two statewide consortiums, we have our bibliographic and our item records we wish to contribute to the central catalog, like main stacks, books, main stacks, and videos. And we have bibliographic and item records that we do not wish to contribute to the central catalogs, reserve books, which are duplicative, centrally purchased ebooks, etc. Staff are taught to use fixed fields to control this behavior to make sure mistakes don't happen. On the bibliographic records, if we don't want to display them all, we have display all, delete code, local no central, local no central, no local no central. So we use local no central to exclude them from OhioLink and Search Ohio, and no local no central so that they aren't displaying to the patrons at all. The item record level, again, we have the same almost parallel setup where you have the display all, the local no centrals for stuff that we do not wish to contribute to the consortia, and then no local no central for stuff we need to highlight, like lost books and build books and such. And we are on our way of phasing out this one. Last of the unique things is that we use our summon discovery layer. Nightly, this is the one piece I'm going to talk about that we purchased separately from our base Sierra pack. We use the Sierra scheduler project to send our bibliographic record information to Summon, which is an ex-Libris ProQuest company. We need to keep our bibliographics in our system for our staff to identify them to ensure that the delete record information is sent to the discovery layer database. We achieve this by using the bibliographic bcode 3 field D delete code. Staff are not allowed to delete bib records. Staff delete the item and the attached records. Then they change the bib bcode 3 to the delete code. I use the delete records to bulk delete records after their 2-week embargo. We sort of leave them in the delete status for 2 or 3 weeks to make sure they get through the summon removal process properly. And then I use the delete bib records with no attached records to ensure that they're all deleted. We also know, this is one thing that I would like to pitch, we know the system records that are in our system to deleted on a given date. You can tell when you go fill up a record that's deleted in Sierra, it'll tell you when it was deleted. And this information is also accessible in our Sierra SQL table. So the system does keep track of delete dates. I do think it'd be much easier for us, at least let staff delete records, if I could gather deleted records on a date and then ran to create lists on them to send them to our discovery layer to know that they're deleted. I do have an Idea Lab open challenge out there. I added one. It's to add record deleted and record deleted date as field which create list can search on. There is the actual number. If you think this is a good idea, please go to Idea Lab and vote this idea up, and hopefully we can make this delete record process a little easier so staff can delete them themselves again. As I try and keep information up to date with my discovery partners. I know last time I did this presentation, I submitted an idea this way, and that one did actually make it into the idea exchange things that got into our future release. So I encourage you to consider, when you do presentations, come up with something that fits in the topic you're discussing and make a pitch at it during there. Idea Lab is Innovative's way of getting ideas together to do enhancement releases and ideas so you get enough people to vote it up. It might get at the product manager's attention and they might actually make that change in a future release. So editing an existing query, you highlight the existing query in the review file and use the search records button. The warning pops up. So here I have this selection already made. I want to search records. I'm on top of this one. I hit the edit an existing query. Instead of starting a new query, this came around and release or so ago with edit existing query. And when you edit existing query pops up, the window opens and it lets you exchange the existing parameter. This is again an example of a Sierra 5.0 feature that wasn't an Idea Lab enhancement. It's probably one of the best things of all time. As any of you will remember, you used to have to go back and manually totally put in all the parameters for a search. Jeremy Goldstein in 9/12/2018 submitted this in Idea Lab enhancement request, and it got voted up and included into the future release. So this is another reason why you might want to go ahead and get that Idea Lab account and vote up things that you think might be useful. When it comes to saved searches, so you don't have to repeat the service, I use it for my discovery layer export file. Again, the Sierra scheduler project is the only thing that we use. It's not is an additional feature you have to pay to purchase. But under the save searches, we have our summon updates field. There's a priority, the criteria that I use for that search. We really don't use the save source much at my institution. People sort things as they want on the fly. They haven't found the save source to be particularly useful. I'm sure others have. And the save list for when you want to export data, when you want to list data out in a particular way. That's another feature there that I don't have a whole lot of staff use of that one, but it is there. Save export is one that we get used pretty extensively. And save exports, export standards you like to use a lot. I have one that significant fields for export that I've written up that I just simply all the data that I like to have when I export records from the system so that I can massage the data in Excel. When you want to save search, you can search records, edit the existing query, And once you have your actual query on thing, you can hit save it as. And you can put the title in there and hit save. And it'll be saved so you can use it the next time. Save search. To access a saved export, to access a saved search list or export function, you simply go into the export records. The pop-up menu will appear. You go ahead and apply a saved export. Your list of saved exports are on there. You highlight the one you want. Hit click, and then it's back in place. One of my favorites, it's a little trickier that I haven't passed on to all staff, but I find is a more of a power user and is a very strong and useful tool, is the MARC Tag Query. So you can find data by a MARC tag field. In our example, ebooks are loaded from different providers. For remote access, all our URLs have the easyproxy.bgsu prefix prepended. We use the 956 instead of the 856. That's an old legacy Ohio link feature to try and manage ebooks. It's no longer in place at the central level, but we have not gone through and changed all our fields. So we still have a lot of 956s. So here's an example of an ebook. And you can see in the 956, it has our prepend for our local proxy server. This title, Racism American Public Life by Janettis B. Cole. So to find fields by these tags, go ahead and create up a search. We set the following conditions. Location is equal to NT because that's our electronic resource location. And the bibliographic B code 3 is equal to either available or local no central. We use the brackets simply to make sure that it's searching on those two fields. And then I do an and for bibliographic. I go under the field, the MARC tag. MARC tag menu appears, TTTII, barcode SSSS. So you want to enter the search you're going for. So in this case, I'm looking for the 956s. The 4 OH delimiters are the fields that fit in there, and then the subfield U. And then I want to have the condition of easyproxy.bgsu.edu. I choose the has and the data that I want it to run a list on. And I end up with, at least on March 1st of this year, I had 507,316 electronic resource bib records that have easy proxy inside of them. Part of the reason we have so many is we use Serial Solutions to manage a lot of our electronic resources. So we load all those records into the catalog on a regular basis. Just a little shortcut in case you weren't aware of, or I keep trying to show staff that they haven't picked up on before, is on the other side of review file. If you want to do the previous record and you don't want to have to go back from the list when you're inside of the record. So you're running on a list, you're inside a record. If you just simply hit the control bracket, it'll pop down to the next record. It'll pop forward, it'll pop above to the previous record inside the list. You hit the close bracket button. Then when you hit the control open bracket button, it'll go from your one spot in the list and it'll advance down one in the list to that record. That's just an easy shortcut. And it helps speed things along. And I know my staff are all very happy when I teach them about that because it just hasn't stuck over the years. Next one I'm briefly going to cover here is exporting records. In this example, I'm going to check the DVDs in our main AV collection, our Brown Pop Culture locations, MPAV. Review file item. So I have my item type for my search. I started all I types. I'm going to start with my I types. The locations equal to MPAV, MMAV. And run my review file. Once I've run my review file, I find this many records in there. I'm going to go ahead and export those. When you do, you get your fields. This one, the export fields table. You double click to enter what information you would like to choose to add to the field cells and append to add more. There's almost an unlimited number of Fields that can be selected, but the larger your file size, the more records that you have inside of it, the more fields you expose, the longer it's going to take. Generally speaking, I like to export more field data than less so that I can go through and find and sort and filter it all in Excel. The more data, it makes it easier to find outlier data that needs to be fixed when you're inside of Excel. And one thing that I always try and get my staff to do, and I do myself, is to include the bib record and the item record number information inside of your exports. So you can always bring the data back into the system for further modification once you've created it. When it comes to exporting records, many of the fields I find for the item records are helpful. Are the I type, the check-in information, the location information, the created, the updated, the total checkouts, the status year to date, the renewals, the internal uses, the last circ, the out date, the copy record number, call number, barcode. Those are the ones I predominantly find and use most of the time. Bibliographics, likewise. Some of the fields I like are the location, the cataloging date, the MAT type, the B code 3, the record number, the created date, the updated date, OCLC edition, imprint, author title, MARC tag. Plenty of other information to gather, but those are the ones I personally found useful in my search as a system admin. You can see here's the list of ones that I have chosen that I have previously saved into all of those. The other aspect you need to know when you're doing your standard delimiter for a CSV file, it's usually a comma. Commas are frequently used in titles and elsewhere, so I always change it. Sometimes I'll use a tilde sign. Sometimes I'll use an @ sign, depending upon what type of data I'm exporting, because every time it finds a comma, it'll put that in a separate Excel cell, so that'll mess up your data. That's why tildes are very rarely used when it comes to title and other information, so I find that a pretty good one. I know some staff members have found the @ sign. So you hit the field delimiter, which it shows as a comma. When you click on that and get the pop-up showing it, you can just simply go right down, ASCII control character, and put a tilde in there. And you can apply the saved export, get your data out. Again, if you want to retrieve it because you've already saved it, which is what I basically have done, I go ahead and I hit the apply. It pulls up my favorite MARC significant fields to export. I'm selecting all that data then is populated. Since I have all those entries, it'd be a pain to have to do that all the time. As you can see then, all my wonderful fields that I like to get are in there. You go ahead and choose where you want to save your file with the export. You give it a title on your system. And then you hit save. Once you hit OK, it starts exporting it, depending on how large your file is and how many fields you export. It can take a little bit of time. Once your MARC file test export is on your desktop or inside your personal computer, then you can go into the Excel document. This is giving you the directions for 2016. You go ahead, you put a new file, you put it in A1, you say text from export. And the import wizard pops up. And you go to the directory you want it, you highlight the file you want, it'll show up here, and then you click import. Next, I'm briefly going to go and show you in Office 365 Pro how you would do that. It's hidden in a slightly different spot. It's under the data ribbon. You choose the text CSV file button. You go to the file you want, you hit it, you import it. You have to load it loads the data into a single column first. And once you're in a single column, you can see the tilde is the delimiter I used of the data. Under the data ribbon, you can go to text to columns to spread this one out so you have a different column for each one. The text wizard pops up. This is also the same spot where you hit in regular old Excel 2016. is the import wizard. So once you're to the import wizard, you change from fixed width to delimited. Click on the delimited option, hit next. The next screen, you're no longer using the tab box, so you uncheck that. And you go down and check the other box and make sure you enter tilde. When you do that, suddenly the data all lines up nice and neatly into separate rows. Hit next. Then it'll show you again how the data has lined up. You can use the moving beam to see how well it lines up across your thing. You hit next after that. It'll give you a screen where they're blocked. And you can go to a column like this one, like your month, day, year, and pick what kind of settings you want to have that converted into. In this case, I'm making sure it stays that way. Finish. The importing of the data, you have to ensure you're in cell A1 first, or else you'll have empty cells. There it shows you the A1 first one. Hit OK. And your data shows in Excel on a nice Excel document. All the data in separate rows with the titles on top. This is just showing you what all the various data that I like to export. Tell these haven't circulated very much recently. The barcode information is the addition, the imprint, the author, the title. I almost always put the author and the title towards the end because the title is generally the longest field data that you're going to export, or I found is the longest field data that I typically export. And in Excel, you know how the data just keeps going on forever in the last column if the column exceeds the size of the cell. So by putting it at the end, it keeps the rest of my columns nice and neat in Excel. Once I have it in Excel, I generally go through, and some things I tend to do just simply clean up, make it a little easier for me to manipulate is, I'll go ahead and I'll freeze the top row. So I'll go ahead and click on the top row, view, freeze top row. That makes sure the top row stays at the top. Another one I'll do is I'll Excel my data. So I'll highlight row 1, the names, and the home row, home ribbon across the top. Under the selection and sort and filter section, I hit filter, and then little pull down menus show up on all the different location title ones for you. So what this does now is when you want to filter something, you click the little filter button, and it'll show up all the various options you have inside of that cell to filter by. So I can filter by location MMAV or MPAV. As you can see, I have a problem here. I have a bib record that snuck into there. So I have to go and double check to see what happens with that one. If you uncheck it, it won't show up in the data. If I were to go under the created date, so the result is 3 bibliographic records numbers, and then it comes the item record number under the created. Let's look it up in this here SDA catalog forum. I'm going to go ahead and look up that one record number that's kind of weird. That's shown earlier. Look it up in Sierra. It shadows a video recording. It's also linked to 3 different bibliographic records, which is an acceptable local practice. So that's why that information came up weird on that one, because it had to do 3 bib records, not just one. So it puts each one of those in a separate column. So when you remove the filters, there's several ways to remove them. You can hit clear this way by just simply inside the box. Hit location, hit clear, or you can go into sort, edit, and hit clear there. And uncheck and select all the boxes again, like I said, our example 4 to find out what was up with that one. A handy feature when you have things in Excel that I typically do is I'll add a top column, and then I will use the formula equal subtitle parenthesis 3 comma all my fields close parenthesis. And what that do is that will count how many numbers you have displaying when you have a filter running. So C3 is just simply the first record inside of my list. This is the last reference inside of my last row inside of my spreadsheet. Once I have that in there, I have a count. I have 4,717 in my base list when there's no filters on, which matches the number of records inside of my review file. So now when I go in, I say, so how many of them are in my main AV collection? You know, I use the location filter and I get rid of that one bib record and I get rid of MPAV. I suddenly come down with 1,468. Just a quick way to find out how many things are in each location. I use that in a lot of ways for a lot of different things, just simply to sort and filter data and to keep track of where things are. And now if you filter by location MMAV to find the DVDs in its main collection, to find out how many items are currently available for checkout, in addition to location filter status, you can add the available status. You can go under add the status, filter, choose available only. To weed the DVDs, you can also add various other things to it, like total checkouts. So if there's 0 total checkouts, I want to see those that have. I want to see the weed DVDs. I want to see those with 0 checkouts added before 2006. So first I go to the total checkout, filter it by 0. And then the other one I can go to the created by item for the filter. And I can search, unclick anything that's after 2006 and those before 2006. And then I hit OK. And then I find out I only have 16 items that exist with these 2 filters that were created before 2015. I have total checkouts of 0. That would be a particularly good list to give the management team, the materials management team. Like, these are real potential items that we might want to get rid of. They might be items of, of real value that somebody might still want to have, based upon most criteria. If something hasn't been checked out in that long, it's ripe for weeding, because every particular area has to weed. Of course, I am merely a systems guy, so I don't make those kind of decisions. I can just simply show them tools and provide some information for them. So once you have your list that you want to create a system in the system back for, say there's 24 items in my review file that I sorted to, and I want to make a review file in Sierra from my Excel list. Go ahead and highlight those fields in Excel. I'm going to save, and I'm going to paste them into a new spreadsheet. So my limited, so my filtered one, I need to take them out, highlight them, save them in Excel. I have a brand new spreadsheet. Then Excel, I'm going to want to save as, and save it as a CSV file, just data record numbers. Once I've saved it as a CSV file onto my desktop or somewhere inside of my PC, then I can go back into Sierra review files. I can pick out a review file. I can name it DVD to weeds, store the item record type, import records, DVD, item record type, choose file. Look in the subfolder I made IUG messy data. There's the item records for weeding. I click on it, it shows up in here. Go ahead and load. And import records into review file 1. The item record numbers are imported in the list. It'll display them there if everything's going right. And you hit import. And now you have review file DVD to weed, 24 item records. Then you can go in and modify them with global update as you need to. If there's a field in global update that these are all common that you want to modify, or you can have them gone through one by one to delete and pull to delete, or however you want to. But that's why I make sure I always add the bib and the item record number information into any field that I export into Excel. So if I manipulate the data in Excel, I can bring it back in the system review file to actually modify the records. A brief case study. The Curriculum Resource Center wants a shelf list of item holdings. They're going to have student employees do an inventory of their juvenile materials. They want to have an item record list. So there's the name, item record list. And the operators, they want to have item location is equal to MJJU. And they want to have the item I code equal to either display all or Z, local no central. So they get all the materials in that location. So once you run that list, they have 32,314 items displaying as available on the shelves. The next thing we'll do is we will sort those records by call numbers. So let's sort records, I type call number. When I'm doing something like this, I always want to do my sort by call number inside of Sierra, because when it comes to sorting Excel and trying to sort Library of Congress or Dewey call numbers, Excel is not very good at actually sorting on those. It's just simply the logic that we have used for our call numbers over the years with the subfield Bs. And the subfields doesn't necessarily work into the logic that Excel uses for numbers most of the time. So then I get them sorted by the call number. I hit my export. I go ahead and I load up my normal significant fields export file. I pick a directory to save them into. I browse, pick my folder. I save them. Then I go ahead and pull them into Excel using my previous explanation. Generally, once I have something that is in call number list and I pull it into Excel, I will insert column A, and I will go ahead and enter 1, 2, 3, and use the auto flash and fill to get a numerical number, a sort number for all the items inside of Excel, just so that I have a 1, 2, 3. This way, if I ever sort or filter things and the actual row numbers change for the items and I want to have them back in the shelf list, I can sort on this to get them back in the shelf list. A lot of times there'll be data that I don't really want to have on a print shelf list because I move some stuff out. So I'll go ahead and choose one and then I will hide it. Then I can just simply hide unnecessary things and get it out to a list that the students that I can actually print on one sheet of paper. The dashed lines when you're in Excel show where the next page is going to print. So I'll generally try and smudge things together to get it to print on one page for a shelf list. But like I said, the information, then we can tell them what these mean. And then the students can work off a computer when they go and actually inventory things on the shelf, or they can do a printed copy. You can also do a limit your create list based upon the call number and end caps of your shelves. Warning I want to give you about past practices. If your collection spans decades, then you might find the past practice regarding the use of the subfield Bs of your call numbers to hinder your ability to get a good shelf list. We ran into this when they did that. They had different practice for how they would create their call numbers. Like here would be an example of more a modern way of doing it with the subfield P for the juvenile, the subfield A for the first part, and subfield B for the second part. Previously, past practice had been just simply subfield A and then put all the numbers in. Don't know how many of you are here. Some of this had to do with, staff trying to force things to print on old dot matrix printers, whereas today when we're using print templates, they behave much different. If you want to hunt for this type of variance, you can use the export records criteria of MARC Tag 092P, 09A, 09B to get the separate columns in Excel to quickly spot the errors. So in an exporting information from one of that list, simply MARC Tag 009P in one field record for Excel, MARC Tag 0092A in another, return B. The reason you do them different ones, you can see the different practices. So I did this into Excel as I've seen before. You notice the juveniles show up in one, the A's have these, and here you see a bunch of B's where they don't have any subfield B's. Next section I'm going to cover is regular expression tips and tricks. These include finding the absence of data in non-repeatable field, title in uppercase, and our code starting out with A113, which is ours. These slides I'm totally trying to give credit to. I saw these from Richard Jackson's Huntington Back Library, his IUG 21 presentation. Still playing with matches and update to using regular expressions to create lists. If you want to get more advanced with that, definitely follow his presentations and stuff in the IUG Clearinghouse. He's a master at this stuff. These are ones I just sort of picked up and I thought are useful since I last did this presentation. So if you want to find the absence of data when it comes to finding a value that is blank, you can just use this example, be bibliographic record created equal to leave blank. So should I be able to find a bibliographic record that never had a created date? No. Go ahead and try it on your own system to see if you have one. You leave the value blank. Even before I heard his presentation last conference, I never thought to just leave it blank and run a list. So that's what I'm showing you now because that does work. And boom, I had 5 records that had a created date of blank. Not really sure how they got into the system without a created date existing, but they did. So this finds those. You can go ahead, you can see, you pull up the record in Sierra, created. Somehow it happened. Yeah, but that's a good way to find things that have null dates or no information in them. There's also this aspect when you want to find non-repeatable field in the title 245, such as the B's or the C's. You can use the MARC tag matches B:*B, C:*B. This is straight from Mr. Jackson. Bibliographic MARC tag 245 matches B subfield, and you'll get the non-repeatable field list. When I go and look at one of those, it finds out I have 2 subfield C's in my 245 and 2 subfield C's in my 264. Not really a good cataloging practice. So then I can mention those to my cataloger, show my, from the conference, I walked away from it and showed this to my cataloger, and she was thrilled to find this out. She went and looked at our system for weird little things like this. So that's a really useful tool. Next one I briefly want to cover is this. If you want to find everything that's in all caps, the MARC 245 matches exact. And you put this string in there. A lot of times for us, I put also does not equal to delete, because if it's delete code, I don't really care to find. Our records that we get from Gobi, when they're not cataloged, when you first bring them into the system, put them on order, they're all caps. And then if something didn't happen right in the overlay or previous generations when we didn't have automatic overlays for cataloged OCLC records, they would stay in the system with all caps, and that's a sure sign they need to be cleaned up. So this lets you find records where that type of accident happened. Of course, you pick up one in the review file, Journal of John Kex. It's in all caps. It has no local, no central. So somebody has in there, it probably means it's ready to be deleted. Sometimes it doesn't though, so I have to, in this particular case. And yeah, this one has a couple of problems. It's no local, no central. There's no cat date. You know, it's just a problematic record, and I would have somebody go on the hunt to find out what's going on with that record. Last one I'm just briefly going to cover that I found really useful is all our barcodes at BGSU start with A113. I want to find out ones that don't have proper barcodes. So item location equals to MMO, which are main stacks. And not item barcode matches A113. That'll go through an example of one that didn't match. This one has a space in the middle. It doesn't start properly, so you can go and fix that one. Because of course, whenever somebody would try and pull this one into the system, when they check it out, it wouldn't work because of that issue. Another one I'm going to cover is to find item barcodes that are not 12 characters, because all ours are 12 characters long. Item location and night barcode matches. Create regular expression, :E, that. An example of one is this one that comes up. That's too short. So you'd have to go and pull the item. You know, we go on there, I pull it up, pull it off the shelf based upon the call number. and I see what the full item should be. So you can go ahead and fix it. Okay. So those are some helpful tools. To find out more about how regular expressions work, please contact, look at Richard Jackson's information over the years because it's very useful. I just sort of give you an example of some really handy ones that I found from his logic. And I can't really explain how they work, but they're very useful and that they work. So a couple training resources for your staff. The Sierra manual is now web-based and password-free. That's a very useful one. It's fun to be able to get in there without having to fight with a password on occasion now. Innovative when they were locked down and the training staff could not get out. The Sierra training website was developed where you can enter information. The create list are covering the reporting tool selection, create list anatomy and searching, the database cleanup using create list to find problems in excellent recording as well. And then they also have several webinar recordings that are also useful that you can go ahead and watch. Another thing you might want to look into is institutional training documents by other IUG members. These are some that I know from the past. You have Main InfoNet has several on theirs. Steve Hesser did some wonderful work up at MCFLS. YouTube videos, and like I said, they have a training document that shows wonderful information about it too. Of course, there's also YouTube videos out there with Steve's and some invention reports. And thank you, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful day and you found this useful. I look forward to seeing you during the question and answer session during the IUG period. Thank you very much.